have no content to make. I've hit a wall. Huh? What's up? You should make a video about survivor balancing.
What kind of person do you take me for? Do you really think I'm gonna make follow-up videos to videos I've already made?
Hell yeah, I am. Money talks. Screw it. Video on survivor balancing. In a typical asymmetrical multiplayer game, you have two roles. Some sort of killer, whose single goal is the complete murder of all the survivors, and your aforementioned group of survivors whose goal is to, well, survive. And sometimes they just do it a little too well. Now, it's no secret that asym games tend to be more favorable for survivors on Roblox. Actually, no, scrap that. It's any asym. This really isn't a Roblox issue. In fact, it's just a thing that just comes with the genre. The fact is, if you have a team of people who all have abilities against one killer, especially if those abilities can stun, the killer will be drowned out a lot of the time just because you have 4 abilities against, usually more than 4. That's really disproportionate and typically leads to a game that really just doesn't favor the killer. If you're going against a team that has a lot of variety, mobility, stuns, healing, and many other effects, well, it's no wonder that in these games the killer gets bullied, tunnels, rage quits, and just turns off their killer chance. Though there really isn't much of a fix for this. How Roblox asyms set themselves up has sort of become a pseudo-fighting game, where you actively fight back against the threats. While it sounds good on paper, it's also heavily flawed in its design. You can't really feel like a big bad if you're outgunned. And yet, I feel like I should at least try to fix it, to take this heavily flawed system and try to make it better. For this video's purposes, I will be using outcome memories as the main example, as to not add too much nuance to have to worry about, and because outcome memories design is inherently the most simple, as it just doesn't have things that can completely change the flow of game, like tasks. Plus, it also has the biggest example of fight back syndrome these types of games have. With all of that out of the way, let's begin. So, survivors in these games are interesting as a concept. Instead of them being your generic survivors that, well, have to survive, all of them in these games are more than just survivors. They're fighters. Most can stun in some type of fashion. Knuckles can stun, Blaze can stun, Amy can. Really the only character that can't meaningfully help the team by directly confronting the EXE is Cream. Typically, survivors have their own aspects and qualities that make them good, bad, or otherwise a mediocre character. These typically range from extremely offensive to particularly defensive and everything else in between. Where killers' aspects are map pressure and chase lethality, survivors are survivability and team support. Survivability is really easy to quantify. How well can your character survive, or more specifically, how good are they at being in chase, escaping chase, or avoiding it entirely? If they can stall a lot of time on their own, they have good survivability. If they can exit chase on their own terms and whims to make chasing them at that moment not particularly valuable to the killer's goals, then they fit the survivalist mindset perfectly. The only true survivalist in outcome memories is Eggman. And honestly, out of most of the characters, he is fairly well designed, although saying that is like saying that British food is better than no food. He has 2 abilities, a speed boost and a counter with 2 passives, one that allows him to double jump and one that we'll get back to in a minute. These abilities are fine for a survivalist. If you're making a game with a more fighting-oriented system in place, then this isn't the worst thing in the world. Annoying, sure, but not bad. In fact, I'd argue that the active abilities on him have their own unique risk and reward factors. Because Eggman is a survivalist, he really shouldn't be used to protect his team. His whole kit is centered around escaping chases as quickly as possible. So actively throwing yourself into the line of fire, while good for hype moments and aura, is oftentimes a bad idea. Especially if you either don't have or use jetpack boost or right after stunning to get away, leaving you completely vulnerable. How you're supposed to play him is to use jetpack boost to either stay out of chase or escape it quickly. Hell, he even has a modifier for doing so and using your stun as a last resort. His entire thing is survival, and he does that beautifully. And because he does his survivability so well, he shouldn't really be of any use to the team, and that would be fine. A completely self-centered character focused on either being a mosquito and stalling time, or ending chases before they start. If that was all that Eggman was good for, then he would honestly probably be top 3 most well-designed characters in outcome memories. But because it's a team game, I guess, he also has one more aspect to his kit that really helps the team in a way that is far useful than it has any right to be, and that is his synergy with Metal Sonic. Now, if you don't know, Metal Sonic is a high-risk, high-reward character. He uses HP to do a really long stun, drag the EXE away, and generally just puts himself into danger to keep the EXE off the team as long as possible. He has a large health pool and is typically the backbone of a lot of teams. To balance him out, his self-heal is very long, making him extremely vulnerable, and requires team coordination to pull off, unless there's an Eggman on the team. See, typically Metal Sonic, if he heals for the full 70 HP, is out of commission for an extremely long amount of time. Without any modifiers, Metal takes about 2 seconds to heal 7 HP. This means that he can be out of a game for a total of 16 seconds or so if he needs to regenerate that full HP. This is his main weakness, his need to carefully manage his HP. Since he doesn't have a second life, he dies the second his HP reaches 0. Though, if there's an Eggman in the lobby, then this main weakness of his is effectively null and void, because Eggman now heals him those 7 HP once every 0.5 seconds. This removes Metal's entire counterplay and stomps on it. He helps the team in this way, which is so much better than the survivalist this good has any right to help the team with. It's a borderline unfair synergy, and for most people makes a lose-lose scenario of either going after Metal and risking losing all that time after a single stun, or going after Eggman and losing all that time anyway. All of this is to say that Eggman has too much survivability and too much team synergy to be in a good spot. He has the ability to stall for minutes at a time, keep one of the strongest stunners in the game for far longer than he should have, and this is just a one synergy OM has to offer. Let's pivot for a second, actually, to a character that I think is much better designed. A support that is often criticized for being too weak, but I love playing him anyway, Tails Miles Per Hour himself. Now, Tails is a sniper character. His cannon takes a while to charge up, meaning his chase potential is nil. He has none. His fly is really easy to follow and on most maps only just prolongs the inevitable, and fulfills his role without overstepping too much. He is inherently weak without his team because he's supposed to be. And in return, he gives quite possibly one of the most helpful things in a game like this, an on-demand 6-second stun. Laser Cannon has a long cooldown, a long windup, and it hinders you completely while it's active, yet he is also essential to teams that are fighting characters like Colossus because he has that stun. Unlike Eggman though, he doesn't have much in terms of survivability. If I had my way, burst wouldn't exist, but outside of that he can just kind of glide. And again, I think it has slightly too low cooldown if you cancel the glide, but that's just me. Tails even has a more balanced version of Eggman's synergy with Metal. He doesn't heal as fast and requires Metal to go out of his way to go towards a character that is just never close to the group in order to fulfill his sniper role. It actively takes Metal away from the group to heal, or puts an already fragile character in a very dangerous position. Tails, while being a weaker character, is, ironically, closer to the pinnacle of what would be preferable in a game like this. He has a clear counterplay and just doesn't have too much survivability and ability to help the team. Now, I want to show off one more character before I talk in more broad strokes about what some typical do's and don'ts are. This character is often the one that is heralded as the most balanced character, the Mona Lisa of this game's balance, if you will, and I am sick and tired of pretending that he is, and that is Knuckles. Knuckles is a Sentinel-type character. He stays with his team, stuns, and protects them by putting himself into danger, and yet he has some of the best survivability out there. See, Knuckles has 2 moves, a punch and a counter. This is fine as a moveset, a little overdone, but fine. The problems don't really stem from these on their own. Punch is a nice stun that is reactable if you're paying attention, and an easily baitable counter that requires patience on both sides and is more of a mind game than anything else. But what turns him from just a guy with good team support and meh survivability on his own are 2 passives. And these 2 passives make him the beast that he is. Punch resistance and glide. See, air traversal in this game is one of the strongest tools a character can have, just look at Silver and Fleetway. Knuckles gets this for free if he can cling to a wall, without a cooldown provided you don't cling to a wall 3 times before landing. This already opens up some nasty loops and spots that increases survivability and traversal, but also help his team as well since Knuckles can actually cling to walls while he is in his punch stance. This takes away his big flaw of being fairly slow, especially if he is guarding his team, and makes him incredibly mobile while also holding an 8-second cooldown ready to unleash. Meaning that under the right circumstances, he can just hold his punch to charge it up while gliding to whoever needs help and getting the best version of the stun without putting in any risk on his end. and punch resistance is the bane of my and every other killer player's existence. Punch resistance makes you take significantly less damage. If you're against 2011X, it goes from 45 to about 16, which is more than 50% nullified. This is an insane amount of damage to just say no to. The stall potential with this is insane and makes him more than just a fairly mediocre stunner. It allows him to tank hits he otherwise wouldn't be able to for free, and buys a huge amount of time for his team to come help him with zero counterplay. This is unfair, extremely unfair, especially considering that he can just pop punch right after counter with no cooldown. So, even if he whiffs, he still doesn't get hit for the full damage. It gives him survivability that he shouldn't have. Combine this with Glide, and Knuckles is a stupidly good character for the role that he has. And there are countless more examples. Honestly, there are only 3 decently designed characters in OM that really don't need too much change to be perfectly balanced. But if I talked about everyone else, then this genuinely would be an hour-long video, and this is supposed to be more of a breakdown of what to do versus what not to do while concepting and balancing Survivor characters. The whole point I was trying to make earlier with the mini rants was that when you're concepting a character, you have to think about what they would be good at beforehand, and give them the tools to be good at that and only that unless you're making an all-rounder. And this just goes for most Asyms. You know, most characters in most Asyms are too good at both their job and jobs that should be other characters' niches. Again, Eggman is too good at survivability to have a way to help the team in such a meaningful way. Not leaving him for LMS should be incentive enough to go for him, not having to worry about him keeping the best stunner in the game for far longer than he should have. Knuckles should be good at protecting the team, not also able to loop the killer or tank hits that he shouldn't be able to that artificially increases how long it takes to kill him, and so much more. Again, when designing a survivor, they have to be good at survivability or the ability to help their team. Having both makes them unfair, and having a team full of characters with both makes the game unfun. This is a trend I see with most Asyms on Roblox, actually. The individual survivors are so good at keeping both the team alive and keeping themselves alive that when they're put together in the team game, well, it ruins any semblance of balance they had. So instead of just harking on them, I will give my list on what every class of survivors should be good at, what they shouldn't be good at, and so on. Of course, you can make some out of this rough blockout, but I feel as though this is a good rubric to follow. Sentinels should have a healthy mix of both self-sustaining and team-sustaining. They shouldn't be too fragile on their own, but they also shouldn't be looping gods and tanking 7 hits either. Metal without Eggman is a good example of this. A good Metal can stall by using their stun to run instead of stunning, but it also isn't going to save them for very long. He is really good at keeping his team alive, but when it comes to himself, he is meh at best. Supports are a weird category because they can do a number of different things, but typically their survivability should be on the down low for a great trade-off in return. Tails and Cream, mostly, are a great example. Cream is invaluable to her team, and so is Tails, but the second they're caught alone, they're dead. Mostly. Cream when not perfect and Tails on Mystic Cave is an issue, but that's more of a map issue than anything else. And yes, I said Cream is fine mostly how she is. Listen, her issue is that she always has a team to keep her alive, not necessarily that she can heal them all very fast. It's that you can't feasibly tunnel her out unless her team is brain dead. And survivalists should be mainly focused on one thing. Surviving, either by being really good in chase or being able to escape chase really well, or stay out of chase entirely. Having good synergy or keeping their team alive while also being really good in chase makes them have the upsides of a support with none of the downsides. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It all comes down to ensuring everyone stays in their defined roles without ever stepping. That's pretty much it. It's not that hard. Anyways, if you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Subscribe and join my community Discord, and I hope to see you in the next one. Jesus, my voice is dying.